Hey guys, welcome to Layman's Terms Podcast, the place where we talk about really big topics using the smallest words possible. I'm Danny the Bartender.
And I am Tommy the Trash Man.
And together we're trying to explain the ever-changing world around us the only way that we know how. And today we're going to talk about slinging trash and slinging drinks.
Yes.
Where do we begin?
We're going to get down and dirty.
I think everybody wants to know about trash.
Dude, I could talk some shit about some trash, man. I'll tell you that right now. You know, there's a lot of things going on with trash as far as when it came to the pandemic. In certain cities, I know they're having some delays with their trash. Where I live, some people came down with COVID. So I just got my trash picked up today after almost 2 weeks. It was about a week and a half. So
that's pretty funny. Like the trash man's trash doesn't get picked up.
Yeah.
Like, can't you just take it to work with you? Like, fuck it, I'm taking this shit to work with me today.
Well, I could. I mean, technically, I could, but the problem is that it was sitting outside, so it was wet. It stunk. You know,
yeah.
Animals were getting into it. You know what I mean? But like, I would drive up, and my neighbors would be like, "Tommy, what are you gonna do about this trash?" I'm like, "It's not my jurisdiction."
Dude, do you have rats where you're at? Like, not in your house, but. Do you have, like, Baltimore has rats everywhere. It's like it's common. It's not even like it's not dirty. Like anyone that lives here, even in the nicest areas, they got rats.
Yeah. Well, it's a major city. So
yeah.
As far as I know, we don't. We got other rodents. I mean, there's fucking foxes running around. There was just a fox the other day that ran out.
I'll take a fucking fox on before I fucking go near a rat, dude. They're disgusting. They're like, when they left my trash out here for 2 weeks, there was just fucking like, I was scared to walk outside.
Well, yeah. Well, and because all the restaurants were closing, and there was some issues with the rats. Like, they were getting a little bit more. They were
apparently getting territorial and starting to seek out other ways to get food. And they said in New York there was like rat gang wars, which I think is awesome.
Yeah. So basically, you know, for us, it's been really hectic because everybody's home. People are starting to get back to work over the last month or so. But even still, people are just making so much trash by just being home. And then they're ordering off Amazon. So we're getting like an influx of boxes, all these stimulus checks. People are buying furniture. People are buying TVs. Like, it's nonstop.
That's something that I've seen and heard is like you just look around, it's just fucking Amazon boxes everywhere.
Oh, they're just crushing us.
But let me ask you a question. So I was just thinking, like, it's kind of maybe too much, maybe a big question, maybe not. When you became a trash man, what is the biggest like worldview change? Like, not worldview, but like is there anything in your perception that change, like how you saw, like, is there something, an angle of people or things where you got to see it from that angle and it changed something? You know what I mean? Like in other words, like, for me, I get to see people drunk. So I see people like drunk. So I get to see people at their worst. And that may have changed, you know, a little bit of the way I see people in general. Is there anything like that in your job where?
Well, usually, you know, especially when everybody was working, we don't really come into contact with too many people. Occasionally we will. A lot of times we'll deal with some contractors, maybe looking to get rid of some shit. But there was definitely, I mean, people get crazy, like, around trash trucks. Like, they get super, like, they gotta whiz by them. And
when you're driving, you mean?
No, when you're on the back. So if you're on the back pitching, you know, gotcha. you don't see a car. Like, when I'm driving, I'm pretty aware. Like, I have to make sure that I beep a horn to kind of let the guys know to pay attention.
But which is probably something that maybe before you might have been the guy whizzing by. Like,
yeah. Because the guys on the back, you know, the truck's loud, so they won't even hear a car necessarily. Dude, there was this one time, like, I was on recycling, and I step out, and I had the recycling bin in my hand, and this woman flew by the truck, knocked the can out of my hand, and just like took all. And then she pulled over, and she's like, "I'm sorry, I know Brian." Like,
she got scared.
Brian used to work with us, and I was like, "I don't give a fuck who you knew. You almost fucking killed me." And she's like, "I'm so sorry. I got to get to work." I'm like,
and I know Brian.
Yeah, like,
Nobody forget that.
So there's a lot of like people just don't care. Like, and you give them an inch, like if there's like cars and all parked, especially like I would imagine in the city, like, so, cause it's really tight. If they think they can get by, man, they'll inch their ass in there. And there's been, you know, people hit the trash trucks. Like,
yeah, I could imagine. Well, I mean, it's one of them things where, you know, I like, you know, every time you see a trash truck, you're like, what the fuck? I want to get around this fucking thing. I mean, nobody wants to sit behind it, but at the same time, you got to have fucking respect for the people doing that job.
Yeah, and that's also the thing. Like me as a driver, I'm always trying to like position the truck in a spot where I can allow cars, you know, to keep flowing freely. But there's times when you just can't do anything about it.
Yeah. And, well, I've definitely never come behind you then, because I feel like every trash truck I come behind, it's like I literally, you're looking at the trash guys looking at you like, enjoy your wait, motherfucker.
Oh,
you're gonna be here for a moment.
Well, I'll do if people like, there's literally people that'll like run right up to the back of the trash truck as if that's going to make you work.
Yeah,
faster.
then that's going to make you, I mean, in any fucking job, there's those type of things. I guess to segue it into mine, it's like the minute you come up to the bar, like just for anybody listening, if you think that walking up to the bar and yelling something to the bartender is going to fucking get you anywhere, big fucking mistake, because you just went from maybe second or third on my fucking mental queue, and now you're sitting at the back of the line, and maybe for a lot longer than you fucking think.
I mean, dude, people are nuts. Like, maybe 2 weeks ago, it's 100 degrees out. There's nowhere for me to like really go with the trash truck, and I got out of the truck to help the guys on the back because there was huge piles all over the place. And this
shit and dirt.
And this woman's like 3 feet behind the trash truck, and she's like looking at me. She's like, "Can you move that truck?" And I'm like, "Where do you want me to go?"
Not
she's like,
anymore, I can't.
She's like, "It's fucking hot." And I said, "How do you think we fucking feel?"
Yeah. Oh, people do that at the bar. They come to me, they're like, "Oh my God, it's so fucking hot," or so. And I'm like, dude, I'm working here. Like, I know. It's not like if I could do something about it, I'd have done something about it.
So yeah, we get a lot of angry people on the road. We'll get a lot of shit.
Do you ever like, in other words, like I guess here goes something a little more specific where it's like, you know, there's a certain house where like maybe, you know, you're always like, it's like, you know, a chick lives there by herself and there's like fucking, she throws her old vibrator out or something, hanging out the bag.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like fucking, just, is there things that you see in people's trash where you're like do you have people where you're like, we got to go back to Dildo Girl's house and fucking pick up that rug?
Oh yeah, you see some wild shit in some people's trash. And there's and I'll tell you this right now, there's always specific houses where you just know when we're pulling up to it, like they're just gonna have fucking 6 cans. Like there's one house in particular that is on a
622 Westfield Street.
They have 8 cans. Almost every trash day we pick up twice a week. Right across the street from them is a goddamn apartment complex that might put out 10. So you look at a big ass apartment complex that puts out 10, and we just look at the house and we're like, dude, like what the fuck?
What is going on in here?
What the fuck are you doing?
But do you ever get to associate that? Like, have you ever like then seen the person and you're like, and then see them on the street and you're like, that's that bitch with 8 trash bags.
Oh yeah, they laugh at us. At this specific, they've actually laughed at us because they know, like, we pull the truck up and then you hear, you pull the air brake out because you got to make a stop. And then there's been times where they're like sitting on the porch and the guys on the back are just like shaking their heads and they just laugh.
Yeah, it takes us fucking 8 hours to do this fucking job, and 4 of it spent outside this one house.
Yeah, and you see a lot of shit in people. You know, like we've had people call. I've had people call me racist, you know, because I didn't pick up their trash bag, and I'm like, dude, I didn't even know you're black. And not only that, I noticed fucking can wasn't out, so they'll call the office because they didn't put it out on time. Like I know, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's definitely times where myself and other guys have missed the bag. But then there's other times.
Is that the slang? Like you missed the bag.
Missed the bag, you missed the can, you missed the house.
Hey, Tommy, you missed another can. Racist.
Yeah. But like there's definitely houses where we're like, they didn't have shit out. But they'll call the office, and then we gotta go back Not all the time, but a good amount of times. But yeah, we've had
Well,
people
you must
call.
have a good office, because I'm pretty sure, like, if I call the fucking office down here in Baltimore, they'll be like, "Yeah, it's great, bud."
Well, that's the difference between living in a small town as opposed to a major city, because I can't even imagine the amount of complaints that they probably get. Even where I live is one of the biggest townships in America.
Yeah.
So, and because they haven't had pickup for, a week and a half, I can't even imagine how many complaints they were getting.
Well, dude, you know what I think about too? Like, they're pretty good with, like, they like the people that do my trash, they put the shit back. Like, we got those, I don't know if they got them up there, but, and maybe everything has turned into this, but there's a lot less of like personal trash cans, and it's all those city delivered trash cans where it's like they can roll it over, hook it right up in the truck picks it up, they take the can down, and they literally roll it right all the way back up to your property, 9 times out of 10, like right where it was.
Yes, that is a trash man's worst fucking nightmare.
Well, to do that, or
no, because all these people now are getting these giant cans.
Mm-hmm.
They're not those little regular Rubbermaid trash cans. Like,
yeah,
so
my trash can holds like fucking 3, whatever gallon trash bags.
Yeah, so they're really big, and it has a metal bar on there specifically for because the truck, you hook it to the truck,
yeah,
and the truck will dump it. There's people now that are buying them and just throw trash in it, like not even in a bag. Like, they'll just throw loose trash in them things. Dude, I work with a guy that's like 5'5", all right? There's trash cans out there that are bigger than he is.
Yeah.
He can't even reach down and grab into it. And people call up and complain like they didn't pick up my trash. Instead of, because we used to tell them, like, listen, you can't have those cans. It's not for residential pickup like that. But now they've kind of like, because more and more people are getting them, as long as it's in a bag, we can reach in and pull it out and grab it, fine. Those things get loaded with water and just regular trash, and it's like, dude, that ain't moving.
Well, to say maybe something that shows the difference, to say how I know exactly what you're talking about too. I hope this is so wonderful for everybody listening to this trash conversation. I'm actually enjoying it, but who knows? It's trash. I have a can that's right on the corner. Like, when you fucking come up the street, I'm the first can you'll see when you get this far. And so every day I open up my shit and there's like fucking buffalo wings in a container. Like, they just throw shit in my can, and it's annoying. But also, we have those cans you're talking about, but now, as much as you might not want to deal with them, they're like enforced here because it was their way to deal with rats. Right. So they, like, if you have trash that's outside of those cans, I'm assuming people can still use certain kinds of other cans, but if you put a bag down just on the fucking street, that you get a fine because you're feeding the rats.
Yeah, well, and in the suburbs and all, it's not even just like they're just worried about, possums, squirrels, everything, all the animals getting in. Yeah. And that you are supposed to have your trash bagged and in a can for that reason.
Well, I'll tell you what, if I could, I would let a fox and a possum live in my house rather than have rats in my trash outside, because it's fucking horrible, dude.
I'll tell you what, man, like, I'm like the Ace Ventura of fucking trash man. Like,
you come across them when you're doing it?
Do raccoons, possums. I can't tell you how many times, like, because you're in a groove, man. You're just rocking and rolling. You're down. You flip a lid off, and then this possum just like,
yeah.
And you're like, oh shit, dude. I'm one of those guys, man. Like, we dump it. I'll knock the can over to let the possum out, but there's times where I don't even see it. It might be at the bottom, and then I dump the can. So then I'm like, yo, I can't run this trash truck. I can't run the back. I can't kill this thing. So I've climbed in the back of trash trucks and pulled out possums.
Oh, that's horrible. Like, dead or alive?
No, live ones.
He's coming. If he went in alive, he's coming out dead. I'm not.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I can't do it. So like we've thrown away.
What do you grab it by the tail or something?
Yeah, I'll just try and trap it, and then I'll grab it by the tail and pull it out, because I can't do it, dude. It won't sit right with me. Like, I remember, now this was a really rare occurrence. Somebody had a pet snake, and they must have threw it in the can. We went to go we threw it in the back, and we went down a couple houses, And next thing you know, we saw this big ass snake,
Ah,
and it was all, and I was like, yo, I'm not fucking with that. So
some people love that shit.
I just, even little mice, everything, dude. I can't. I feel bad. Like I can't do it. So I gotta make the effort. A lot of times I'll use a box or the can or something, and I'll just kind of trap them and scoop them up out of there. But I gotta worry. The one kid, he's always like, dude, you're fucking crazy, man. Fuck that shit, man. Just go. But I'm like, nah, man, I can't do it.
What do you mean? Like leave the shit there?
Yeah, he's like, fuck it, just run it. We'll run it. When I say run it,
Oh, you mean crush them?
yeah.
I thought you meant like leave it in the can. No, well, I got news for you, Tom. If me and you were working together, my vote is crush it. So if you got any other vote, go ahead, jump back in there and
yeah,
fucking
dude.
Ace Ventura it up, because I'm not doing it.
I'm going full Jim Carrey, bro. I'm jumping in and going in for the save.
Nah. Maybe the snake, like not for. I'm not getting the snake, but I might be like, hey, somebody might want the fucking thing, or leave it back there for when you have more possums. Fucking no reason to get rid of it. Just have a snake living back there in the truck.
Yeah, so you definitely see some things, and I think before the job, it's not something that you don't ever think of how you just tie your bag in the kitchen, you throw it in the back can, and that's it. But you don't realize, like, if you're doing work in the house, let's say, and you got sawdust and all this debris, you just throw it in the trash can. When we go to dump that, and it's just a cloud of smoke that just came over, and we're like breathing in. That's shit that a lot of people don't think of.
Well, just to fucking say it, because we're talking about it, I mean, I also feel like I've become more aware of stupid little things like that, which may not even be affected by, like, me experiencing like fucking poor guy. But you just, as you get older, you just start to like think like, I can't, like, because I'll have friends that are like, just put that outside. And it's not like I'm the fucking nicest guy in the world. I'll get away with whatever I can get away with. But there's some things where I'm like, dude, like, in other words, like if I'm breaking up a fucking mirror or something, I think when I was like fucking 20, I would have just thrown it in the bag and then thought, well, that's their problem now. But, now my brain will say, like, what if somebody grabs the fucking trash bag, or, I'll wrap it up inside of a fucking bag and seal it up and then wrap it again in a towel and then throw it out, rather than just throw shards of fucking plate glass in there.
Well, yeah, it's dangerous because, again, a lot of times we're not really paying attention because we're trying to get done. I sliced my leg open. A guy that I work with sliced his leg open really bad. He had to go to the emergency room.
Yeah, but you got to get like grossed out too. Like it's one thing to get sliced open. It's another thing to get sliced open by something inside of a nasty fucking bag that you're like, ugh.
Well, our biggest scare is needles.
Like drug needles, or just like any kind of needles?
Hypodermic needles, yeah. So like, and I don't know. I mean, the majority of the time, it's people that, diabetics. But we tell people all the time, like, if we come across a house and we see needles in there, well, I'll tell my boss, he'll tell the office, they'll contact the house, and they'll tell them, like, listen, put it in an old coffee can, make sure the lids are on. You know what I'm saying? Because you just go to grab it and it could stick your hand, stick your leg. I had this. I dumped this can. There was a gigantic glass container that was full with like just dirty liquid. I dumped it. It was all the way at the bottom of the can. I dumped it, and it rolled down the rest of the trash and broke on the back of the truck and dropped off and sliced my leg open, and all that liquid and all just went all over me. I had no idea what the fuck was in that shit. All I know is it smelled horrible.
Trash can juice.
And
I wouldn't wish that on anyone.
Dude, it melted my shoelaces.
No.
Like my shoelaces broke.
Yeah, well, when you're talking, listen, I mean, this might be a segue too far, but when you're talking about the needles, you reminded me of something, and maybe I can segue it into bartending in a way because it was someone I worked with. But we had a girl who was fucking really got bad on heroin. Basically, I cared enough about her, I guess, and I'm not trying to say I'm a great guy or anything, but I did like my own kind of intervention where I was like talking to her and I said, listen, whatever. But she was a fucking heroin addict. Like, I'm not saying she started messing around with it. Like, she was a heroin addict. Yeah. And we knew it. The way the fucked up way that I found out about it was I was at work one day and I got a phone call where she was just being frantic and said something about killing herself and said she cut herself and whatever. And then that's when people started kind of telling me like, she's really fucked up. So we went over there that night. Like, I think we left work because she was saying she was going to kill herself. We went to her apartment and I was like, hey, just open the door so I could see it. And dude, it was the grossest thing I ever seen. She like put the little like latch on so I could open the door a little bit.
Yeah.
And she did. And I was like, did you cut yourself? Let me see it. And she showed me her fucking forearm, and her forearm just folded down. Like she sliced her forearm like off and it like folded down. Ugh. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like it flapped down. It's
like the Terminator in Terminator 2 when
he
dude, like reveals himself.
Yeah. So dude, so, you know, I was like grossed out by it, but I said, let me see that. And she put her arm like, you know, she probably wanted me to see it, but didn't want to let me in, but then probably wanted me like, but she basically, I didn't realize she like tried to kill herself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she put her arm like a little bit through the door. So I grabbed the two pieces of meat like on her arm and so I squeezed her arm, but squeezing the meat together. You know what I mean? Ugh. And I kicked the fucking door. So like the latch came off.
Right.
And we went in, and what I'll never forget, dude, is I'm holding her arm. I look in her bathroom, dude, what she cut herself open with was like, you know, like a candle holder that you fucking, like if you bought a candle from Ross, like a big candle. Right. So she like smashed that on the floor and then just took like a big jagged piece of that and just dug it in her arm, I guess. Anyway, we called the fucking ambulance. The guys came in, they put her on the ambulance, they carried her out, and they kept telling me like, you know, like I said, I'm not trying to fucking be Mr. Good Samaritan on here, but they just kept saying to me like, you fucking saved this girl's life. But meanwhile, she is so mad that like I brought people into her fucking house to see what she, because like the paramedics were like, you know, we know you're high, you know, whatever. The whole time, dude, this girl was fucking coming out of the house. She's sitting in the fucking gurney and she's just saying, I hate your fucking guts. I hate your guts. I'm like, you know, whatever. I'm not really upset about it, but it was kind of fucked up.
Right.
But anyway, she goes home, and then I called her up, and this is where it comes to the needles. I was like, she called me up or something. I forget how it went down, but she said to me, like, she wanted me to come over and talk to her or something. So I called my dad, who was a fucking heroin addict. And he basically said to me, that's a huge step. She just told you what she does. And what she said was, I said, look, you got to throw all that shit away and start from fresh. And she said she couldn't. She said, I need you to do it. So I talked to my dad, and he said that's a major step apparently, because of that drug box that they use is so important, like where they store their shit, that like if they're telling someone else to get rid of it, that's a big deal. So right. I went over there, talked to her, and then after talking to her, she was like, I was like, where? I was like, where's the shit at? And dude, I'm not kidding. It was like one of them things where it was like, you ever see like one of them shows where the guy pulls out a gun and they're like, show me the other gun. And he just keeps going somewhere and getting another weapon.
Right.
This girl was like, in the top drawer, in the other thing. Dude, when I was done, I thought I was going to get like a little cigar box with like a needle in it and like an empty bag.
Yeah.
When I was done, I had like a trash bag size thing with like fucking 200 needles in it, 500. And then all of a sudden I realized all at once, like I'm standing there with this bag and I'm thinking, A, where the fuck do I throw this bag out? And B, like if I get stopped by a cop, this is a lot of stuff in my hand. You know what I mean? And
right.
so the only reason why I bring it up is I fucking think I ended up throwing it in the dumpster, really. But for 20 minutes, I didn't know what to do. I was standing there like, I didn't know I thought it was going to be like a little box and I could be like, there you go. Now I flushed it down the toilet. But, you know, going back to the hypodermic needle kind of thing, it was like, where the fuck do I put this? And the only reason, if I did discard of it illegally, it was like at some point I'm like, I'm not going down to like a police station and being like, hi, I've got a giant trash bag full of fucking heroin needles to get rid of. But that's a fucking another story, because then I let that girl stay at my fucking house for 3 days to get clean. And it turned out she stayed at my house for 3 days and got fucking high. And then I came home and caught her getting high with some other person we knew. And I'm like, just get the fuck out of here. Eventually you just got to fucking give up on people. And you know what? That girl does fucking CrossFit now, and she's fucking healthy as shit and been off drugs for a while. doesn't talk to me. I just hope sometimes she looks back at that and thanks me for it. But all I really remember is her sitting in a gurney going, I fucking hate your guts. Well, anyway, so there's a thing where you don't know where to throw shit out, you know?
Well, that just kind of trumped my saving possums out of the back of a trash truck story.
Hey, I don't know, man. You might get more out of saving the fucking possum.
Meanwhile, I'm thinking our listeners are going to be like, oh, wow, that's pretty nice of that guy. And then you're like, oh, I let this drug lady live with me and I saved her life. I kicked in the door, wrapped her arm around. Like, you're like a modern day fucking superhero.
Dude, no, but I won't lie to you. The grabbing the meat part, like grabbing her hand was kind of fucking crazy. Like, like in other words, I guess I was thinking of the two things, like touching something I didn't want to touch and discarding something I didn't want to touch. And, you know, I even sat there thinking, should I even tell that story? But whatever. That's what comes out of the podcast.
Well, hopefully nobody tunes in right around that mark when you say when I grabbed her meat.
Yeah, I grabbed her meat.
That could be a code word for grabbed her by the pussy, maybe.
Yeah.
But
dude, I remember though one of the fucking things I remember saying to her that I think about that I thought was genius, but I meant it too. And I remember talking to her and I'm like, listen, I'm going to let you know something. Like when I was having my little intervention talk with her, I was like, right now, because I think at the time she was like fucking a drug dealer. She was on that level where everybody knew she was on drugs, and mainly because she started dating this like dirtbag who was a drug dealer. Like, you know, like he didn't get her into it, but somehow she's dating this guy that she shouldn't be dating, and that brought people whatever. So I remember sitting there with her, and I was like, I'm gonna let you know something. Right now, everything's good, but I'm just letting you know something. I was like, nobody really knows this. You haven't gone to rehab, whatever, you know, nobody really knows what's up. I said, there's going to be two things that are going to come out of this. If you don't make a change right now, if you don't get yourself into the fucking hospital, if you don't do something to change it, I said, first off, for the rest of your life, you're going to be that person at the fucking party that everybody's going to be wondering where you are and where their shit is. And I was like, and number two, I was like, if you haven't sucked somebody's dick yet for this, you will. It's going to happen. So
it's going to happen. You're going to be Pookie from New Jack.
So that was my life-saving conversation. So like I said, even if she hates my guts still, I hope every once in a while when she goes to think about it, she's like, I haven't sucked a dick for it yet. I will.
I can only imagine how that's probably not a conversation usually that you probably like. Drugs are bad, kids. You know, it can ruin your life. And hey, you know what? Eventually, if we want to get down to nitty gritty, you're gonna suck a dick. Like,
and not a dick you like, not a dick you want to suck.
Yep,
okay, dude. It's gonna start turning into dicks you don't want.
Yeah, it's gonna be a Harvey Weinstein cock.
Yeah,
like
you can't blame Harvey. Harvey's
right. Right. It's gonna be nasty, hairy, sweaty.
Trash baggy. Ugh.
Yeah.
Like a possum's tail, right when it comes out of the trash.
At that moment, you would probably rather be swimming in the back of a trash truck and saving possums than sucking that dick.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'll go outside and hang out with the rats before I suck a dick I don't want to suck.
All because of fucking drugs.
Yeah.
So
there the start off might be a few ding dangs you want to get with. But eventually, you're gonna end up on that fucking lower end of the rail. You're gonna be closing your eyes and saying, ugh.
You know what's weird about that though? It's kind of sexist, the fact that we're just assuming that all these drug dealers. Well,
no, I was thinking about myself. Like I was really thinking about myself. Like, I mean, I don't want to suck a dick, but there might be a few I could suck if I had to.
But I mean, think about like I met if there was ever a guy. And he was like saying to a girl, like, yo, I will eat your box. Like,
yeah. Well, come on, dude. We all know.
He's got to eat a box. He's got to eat the box. And it might not be a good, nice, smelly box. It could be a hairy, nasty.
That's true. Some bitch will pull like,
we're equal. We're equal. It's 2020. So we have to cover all the bases here.
But I'm going to guarantee, I don't care what year it is, the girl that makes you eat her box that has to find you on drugs and make you eat her box is going to be a lot nastier than a couple of them ding dangs that you end up having to suck on.
It's probably not going to be J-Lo like, hey, I'll give you $20 if you eat this box. Like,
because if that's the case, well, guess what?
Sign me up. I'm in. I'm all in.
Hey, Dan, what's wrong with you? Hey, I got a great thing going, man. I'm addicted to heroin and I eat fucking Jennifer Lopez's box.
eating J-Lo's box space for my habit, my drug addiction.
Nobody would give you any, like if you sat down with somebody and you were like, damn, we need to have a talk. Look at what's happened in your life. I'd be like, look, what do you mean? Look what's happened in my life. I get high every day and I'm fucking eating J-Lo's box.
Yeah, like
dude, by the way, she looks fucking amazing, dude.
She
Did
does.
you see her on fucking SNL or something recently? I was like, hello.
Hello, she's like 50 plus and she still looks incredible.
God bless money.
But yeah, but I'm just imagining that
money and hard work. When you look that good still, there's some hard work in there.
Oh, well, yeah, but the money allows for her to eat well and all of those.
Just remember, every day that she wakes up and looks at herself in the mirror, she's like, if I don't get this shit tight, I'm going to lose fucking $100 million. So
yeah,
it gives you a little different kind of drive.
I got to keep this shit tight to keep that money right.
Yeah, I got to keep this shit tight if I want these heroin addicts eating my box.
Exactly. Like, I hate to keep like going back on this.
I don't.
But like, I would think that would be pretty awesome if it was like on that one of those TV shows where like the interventions,
yeah,
and like the families all gathered around, and the guy's like, well, and they're like,
he's literally just looking at them like, no, I'm not gonna stop.
He's like, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah,
and he's like, look at you,
and one of the family members is like, how do I get into this?
Like, imagine that, like, fuck you, John. You fucking hate your wife. You pitch fucking trash for a living. And I do heroin and eat J-Lo's box. Like, pick a side, motherfucker. No, that would be, I would love that fucking episode.
Yeah.
But,
intervention gone wrong.
Yeah, like, and then everybody, all the people at home are like, dude, I guess he's got a point.
Heroin everywhere and everybody just getting high. Becomes the thing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe we're kicking this horse in the.
That'll be the new political slogan. That'll be the new.
Maybe this whole heroin thing isn't that bad. But anyway, heroin's really bad. It's affected a lot of people in my life and my friends. So I don't fucking stand for it. But put it this way, that's why it's so bad, because you won't be eating J-Lo's box. We all know that. You'll be fucking eating out of the trap. Matter of fact, I just seen a fucking video on on somebody's fucking website or something where it was a Kensington, one of them viral videos. It was a dude, this is the word. Here's a moment where I wish I could play the video. It's a fucking dude in Kensington with like 5 people around a sewer drain, like a square sewer drain. And there's a crackhead in there with his bare feet. And it's so backed up, he's like standing on whatever the fuck is in there, but you can only see his knees down. And there's somebody going, I told you, man, I'll give you $100 if you find my keys. You got to dig with your feet. And this guy is digging with his bare feet. He finds the fucking keys eventually. But the worst part is he's sticking his fucking feet down and like squeezing his toes together on things and pulling it up. And like he does it like 6 times and it's not the keys every time. But I'm thinking in my head, like the crack needles, the heroin needles and the fucking crack files and whatever the fuck else is in there. And this dude's in there with his bare feet. Like that's how bad drugs are. That's what that dude, you couldn't fucking pay me enough to do that. And that guy's in there. Like what I was actually thinking was they cut the video off when he finds the keys. Like I can guarantee you when he gave them keys over to that dude, he was like, peace. Thanks a lot.
He gave him like a 5 spot instead.
Yeah. It's like, there you go, man. That's all I got.
My favorite, I really think we got off topic here a little bit, but my favorite jug video was when the guy was like all messed up. Well, there's 2 actually. The guy was like all messed up and the people were videoing it and they was like in the street freaking out and they just keep screaming, help, get this man some milk. Get this man some milk.
I think you sent that to me. That was great. That man, no, was it the one? There was a lady. There was one with a lady where she kept going, he's on the milk. That motherfucker's on the milk.
Dude, they just kept...
Or needs some milk.
Yes, they just kept saying, like, you got to get that man some milk.
Somebody
and I was like,
some milk.
And I was like, what fucking drug is the fucking cure is fucking, like, whole milk? Like,
well, can I tell you, what's so funny you bringing that up? And please, somebody out there, if they hear this, if anybody hears this, I always was confused by that. But then I just, in one of those, I was going, after I saw that viral video of that dude digging in the sewer, I went down this other rabbit hole of watching these fucking videos of these guys. One dude was asking a guy, what are you on, that milk? You on the milk, huh? And I think what that lady meant was, you know, when you're a drug addict and you're fucking going crazy because you're like withdrawing, then they need to give you what you like if you're a heroin addict, sometimes you actually kind of need heroin to stay alive. You know what I mean?
Right.
So she might have been saying like, this guy needs to fucking equalize himself by like milk might be like a code word for like heroin, or maybe it's methadone, like the shit they drink to fucking stay off of it or whatever.
Right.
Maybe that's what she meant.
Right.
But then again, maybe she meant Lehigh Valley fucking 2%. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
Somebody get him some chocolate milk. Get him a Yoo-hoo.
Dude, my second all-time favorite. That's actually, no, I think this is my all-time favorite. There was an episode of Cops where they pull up and, you know, they're doing their little discussion about like, yeah, we're doing the streets and we just got a call for this guy. It's like broad daylight. They pull up to this dude and they have all the cameras. So as soon as they pulled up, you see this guy just fling this bottle of spray paint. It's not even like
he doesn't jump.
He doesn't run. He just does it real like nonchalant. Throws it over his shoulder. So they pull up to him and he's got gold spray paint all over his face. And they're like, what's going on here, buddy? And he's like, I thought it was just nice day out.
Just putting my makeup
on. And they're like, are you huffing? And he's like, no. He's all fucking looking around like he don't want to look the officer in the eyes. Meanwhile, he's got gold spray paint all over his fucking face. Oh, dude, I lost it. Just the fact that he just tossed it so nonchalant, and he just stood there like nothing's going on. Nothing to see here, officer.
Dude, I wish I had it's another one. And now I'm segueing again, but now we're on drugs and viral videos. And I'm going to bring it back to bartending in a sense to just show you the kind of fucking people that are in my environment. There is a lady that works at a restaurant that's very close to mine that has a big name. We'll just say it's the CF. Okay.
Right.
And, so I don't even know how this girl still has her job. She like, dude, there's some fucking, I'll tell you, the demand for restaurant workers got so big that it's so far from what it used to be. Where it used to be like you became a server for a reason. Like somebody would say, oh, you got a certain kind of personality. You should be a fucking server, or you should be a bartender. You should be whatever. Now they just popped up all these restaurants everywhere. And the motto for most of the corporate places is like, we can make anybody a server. We just want to take them in. We don't want their personality. We don't want anything. We just want them to do their fucking job. But with that being said, there's some people in the industry that should not be in the industry. And this one lady, like literally come down to my bar after work and like, she's just sitting there like fucking doped out. Like you could tell it's like pills, like people that get all fucked up on like perks and shit or oxys or something, like just fucking like, you know, you're like, there's your check. And she's just like fucking standing there with her mouth open and shit drooling out of her. And I'm saying to myself, I think I'm supposed to cut her off. But anyway, that's the thing. That's the thing with like people that are on pills. As a bartender, like just kind of make it a little bit into my, you know, talk about my job, I guess. It's so hard to regulate other people because first off, people have all different levels of intoxication. Some people are drunk off 2 beers. Some people are drunk off 2 beers, but they don't fucking show it till 10 beers. People that do pills, like one of the biggest problems I've had in like the past 10 years is like my boss will come over to me like I'll give somebody a beer, then I'll see them and they're like, oh, hey, how you doing? All nice, all normal. And then somebody will come over to me like later and be like, hey, the lady's outside like fucking passed out, fucking she shit her pants. And then your boss will come over to you like, what the fuck? How much did you give her? And sometimes if you kind of know the person or maybe they're a regular or something, you know, your boss won't believe anything you say. Like I'll show the check, like there's fucking 1 drink on there. And they're like, yeah, well now they think I'm giving shit away. But the thing is with pills, people come in, they're like, I'm gonna have 1 fucking beer. Then they pop a fucking couple of fucking pills. And then they're in fucking la la land. And like, I didn't know that was going to happen. This particular fucking server, one time somebody was like, no, you know, she's like a real crackhead or something. And I'm like, yeah, no shit. But like, what do you mean? And they were showing these viral videos. And dude, there's these people that went around Baltimore and you may have seen these videos. They make them like they're scary movies. So they get like a crackhead and they probably pay them, but they'll say like, here comes a ghost, here comes a ghost. And like the crackhead's just in the middle of the street, like, get ghost away from me. You know what I'm saying or no?
No, I've never saw it,
But anyway, it's like, they don't really, the fucking movies don't necessarily have a plot, but they just kind of like take one crackhead and put him in like 8 situations where they act like, now you're running from the ghost, and the person, it kind of looks like they don't know if they're really running from a ghost or if they're fucking doing it for you. You know what I mean?
Right.
So they show me a video of this fucking girl who works down the street from me. She's on this viral video going like, it's a ghost, all cracked out of her head. But I'm just sitting there saying to myself, like, dude, how? Like, I'm not even saying that could, listen, there's been many a times in my life when I was drunk and people might have been able to get a video or whatever. But dude, if you ever go viral for like doing some crackhead shit, how do you just, like, this girl is at work and everyone around is like, yo, did you see this video of Linda? You know what I mean? Like, that's insane.
You see Linda run from ghosts?
Yeah, you see Linda running from them ghosts.
Dude, it's like fucked up, but it's funny.
Well, that's the thing too that's kind of fucked up is it was kind of like this thing of like, that probably wasn't her now. Like, that was probably her like 2 years ago. And now she's just fucking getting by and do, some people think like, well, I'm not really a fucking addict anymore. I'm just dropping a bunch of pills or something. I'm not shooting needles or whatever. But like, but I guess, in retrospect, it's like, but now you got to live with that. Like, all your friends around, that that's what you did.
Funny that you mentioned about, being a bartender and how you have to like, you give people's tolerance are different. So like you give one person a drink, they're fine. Another person has a drink or two and they're fucking shit-faced. And I don't know, are you ramp certified?
Listen, forgive me because I maybe look like an idiot, but I'm all those different certifications.
Yeah.
You may not have to be ramp certified. Like they might call it ramp maybe in PA, but I've taken all them certifications. Some places now, like they're, basically I've done that thing a million times where you learn about like what you're supposed to do, how many drinks, what signs you're supposed to look for. But to be honest with you, dude, like it sucks to say it like this, but like nobody follows that shit. First off, just the one thing I always use as an example is like, take a bar like we used to go to when we were kids, like Barnaby's. Okay.
Right.
The number one thing I always say is they have parking lots. Okay. So unless the fucking 75 cars that parked in there are 75 guys that are only going to have one beer, that's insane. Number one. Then the other thing is you can't follow it because, like I said, those people that were, you find out that they were outside drunk, and you only gave them one beer. Well, there's also people that I try and make sure I don't give them enough. But what happens is when you're trying to regulate somebody, like if you and 5 of your friends were hanging out and I said to you, hey, buddy, you've had 2 in the past 45 minutes, so I'm not going to give you another one. I don't, but like when your buddy comes up and goes, give me 6 Miller Lights and fucking 5 shots of fucking Fireball, you can't police everybody.
Well, the only reason I asked you that is because for the listeners that don't know, since we're talking about work, I do bartend part-time at the retirement home. So I wasn't sure if that, because I had to get it, I wasn't sure if that was something that was required in like all. Like,
yeah, no, it's required, but it's required in the sense of like, I can hire somebody and never, I think it's more one of them things where it's more like another, like, put it this way. If you go to work at like fucking Cheesecake Factory, they put them people through certification.
Right.
But again, I think that's also part of this new era where it's like, we're going to make you learn how to be a server. So if you get hired in to like a cool bar because somebody's like, hey, that guy's cool. You know what I mean?
Right.
They'll just train you. And maybe one day after you're there for 2 years, they'll say, we're being required to certify everyone. But they don't have like a thing in regular bars where like the minute you get a job, you have to get this certification.
Right.
Honestly, like most of those fucking things, man, it's like you know, you just can sit there, fucking close your eyes, close your fucking ears while they're talking. And then at the very end, just fucking answer, you know, take a fucking shot at it. And those things are wrong sometimes too. Like I remember learning for a long period of time, like make sure somebody has like pretzels, like make sure they have something to eat. And it's not carbs. Like they used to say like pretzels and shit.
Yeah.
And it's actually worse for you. So now the new tests tell you to get them to eat something fatty, like get them some French fries or get them some whatever. But that old pretzels and popcorn shit is actually gets people drunker. This is the juicy part of the podcast where you learn about pretzels versus fatty foods.
Well, it's funny because when I had to do that and how you mentioned, you're like, dude, you give like one person a drink and then they pop some pills or whatever. I bartend in a retirement home. So people
are always popping pills.
They're popping shit left and right.
Yeah.
And like, you know, Margaret rolls in on her electric scooter and she's fine. And then she drinks, you know, a Bombay Sapphire, and suddenly I gotta call security because she's bumping into all the chairs. She's falling off her scooter.
I got it. I can drive. Leave me alone.
Yeah. And then they're like, who did you vote for? Hillary, Trump? Oh, you dumb bitch.
Dude, I'll tell you something right now. I had this conversation with somebody the other day where like my job is to like play with people, make them feel comfortable, right? So when I only have like 3 or 4 people at my bar, I'm a lot more entertaining, I guess, sometimes. Because when I say entertaining, what I mean is like if I'm busy, entertaining is like, you know, a quick joke or you play with the bartender, but you're too busy to like sit down and really like whatever. But when you got like 4 people sitting at your bar and they're like all not together, I'll go over and I'll have like these 4 individual personalities that I'm catering to. And sometimes you don't really know how those people, like, you know, maybe you got like a Trump supporter and you're going over and you're just like playing Trump supporter shit with them. Then you go over, you got a fucking another Biden supporter or something. And you're just like, yeah, I'll tell you. And the next thing you know, they're drunk and you realize like this dude is a fucking maniac. And it's my fault because I just went over to him 4 times. I gave him a shot. I fucking chatted him up about something. And now he's just like shouting racist shit at the end of the bar. And I'm like, and it's the worst when you look over and you like, sometimes you look over and you're like, what the fuck, you know? Sometimes you look over and you realize like, that's all my fault. I did this and now I have to fucking dance out of it. But it is scary because you don't know, you know what I mean? Like you're like trying to like fucking entertain and you're trying to get people to start talking to each other. And then sometimes that shit goes like really wrong. And people are like, who the fuck is this guy? And to everybody looking at you, it's the guy that you've been like chatting to. Now it's like your friend.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It's the guy Danny was fucking just chatting to. Like, and you know, you just, when they look at the check, it's like you gave him a shot. So you bought it. They're like, what's up with this guy? And you're saying he's an asshole. And they're like, he's an asshole. Why'd you buy him a beer? And you're like, well, he wasn't an asshole at first.
For an hour ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so I mean, at my place, you know, it's not as personal as that, you know, like I have like a cart where a little bar and then the patrons, like they go sit at their tables. I mean, the closest table is close enough where they'll ask me some questions and I interact a little bit. But like for you, you know, you're a lot of times one-on-one with the people, you know, a lot of times they say like, you know, bartenders are like therapists.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, was there ever like, what was the fucking crazy? Did anybody ever be like, hey, they got, you know, I fucking killed my wife.
No, well, if you want me to be honest with you too, because you're saying it like that, let me tell you something right now. Well, I'll tell a good story first. I work up near Johns Hopkins University, right?
Right.
And these are things that I take into consideration ever since like this specific incident happened, because it's happened multiple times since. But when I first started working down here, we're right across the street from like big hotels. And then also right across, like we're right down the street from Johns Hopkins University, where I've met a lot of people that, well, I guess I'll say it this way. I'll tell this story and then I'll get into the little shit. But I had this couple that came into my bar, and sometimes you just get a vibe like you really do treat everybody differently. So my thing is people really like to be remembered. And so what I don't see what I hate is they don't do it to me, But I have a bar it ain't like I work at a bar with 10 people. I work at a bar with that'll have 300 people in it at a time. But when I catch it, like I'll always remember a face. And when I see you walking in the door and you're like making that look like, should we sit at a table? Should we, like just that people making up their mind in the front. And I always, no matter what they're doing, it's not me trying to get their business because I don't care because I'm packed. Right. But I always say like, oh, hey guys. And it's just something about like, I'll go to fucking Barnaby's every day of the fucking week. And every time you go, the bartender fucking just treats you like, what do you want? I like to just be remembered. Like when somebody's like, oh, hey, what's up, man? How you doing? Yeah. And maybe you the last time you seen them, you said you were just having a drink real fast before you went to go see your girlfriend or something and maybe told them a little something about it. People really like to have you say back to them like, oh, hey, how'd it go with your girlfriend the other night? And you literally see their eyes light up like, oh, this guy fucking, I feel good now. You know what I mean?
Right.
And there was a certain couple that came in and the whole thing was, it was kind of a rowdy environment every time they came in. But I just always made sure to say like, oh, hey guys, and sit down and get them the same drink they had or whatever, right? They were there like 3 times a week for like 3 weeks, okay? And all of a sudden the guy was leaving. He got up to leave and he came back in and he was real like weird and he just like kind of came, like he already left, already paid his tab. He came back in like 5 minutes later and he was like, hey, and he handed me a card, like a closed sealed card. And I opened it up and there was $200 in there. 100 was for my, whatever. It doesn't matter. We tip pool, but it was specifically for me and another person.
Right.
And I read the card and it was like, hey, I came down here because he said that they were in Baltimore for one of the worst things ever. Like their mom had died and they were there for 3 weeks while she was dying, Right. And the guy was like, I just want to thank you because you took like the worst experience of my life and you made me feel comfortable and you made me, like it was all this nice shit. It was like a big long card.
Right.
And there's been so like, that was the most specific, like heartfelt one.
Yeah.
But it just made me think in my head, like you have a different job. You never fucking know who you're talking to. And to have somebody like, well, then to go into other stories, I've had somebody come in one time and they sat at the bar and said, are you Danny? And they asked for my other buddy, Joe. And I said, yeah. And they asked for a shot of Jameson. They took a picture of themselves. They took a little shot and then they gave us a big ass tip and they were like leaving. And we were like, hey, like, why did you ask for us? It was like, I'm sure it went down a little differently than that, but they were in and out. And I'm like, what was that for? There was some guy that used to come in there that we don't even remember. I still don't know who the fucking guy was, but that was their grandkids. And he left in his fucking will. He asked them to come to the bar, do a shot of Jameson at his favorite bar in his favorite seat and get us there and give us a tip. And that was somebody wrote in his will.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Cool, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is like, I don't even know who that guy, me and Joe will still to this day talk. Dude, here's another amazing bar story. This is amazing. Okay. So this is going to get into it's not a bad story, but so every time like a fucking tranny or something sitting at the bar, like somebody where you're like, oh, like you'll go over, just happened to me yesterday. I walked over to a table from behind somebody with like long blonde hair. And I went over like, oh, hey, how are you? And turned around. It was a Chinese dude.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And so there's nothing wrong with that. However, take this however you want it, but I'll go over. I got a friend that drinks a lot and I'll go over and I'll remember a night where he was all fucked up. And I go over and I go like, hey, the chick at fucking table 2 just asked for you, said something about Saturday night. And he'll be looking at like a blonde with long hair, but also like sweating, like, I don't know. Then he'll come back over to me like 20 minutes later with a face like, you fucking asshole,
Yeah.
So one day, this old dude comes in and he started asking for fucking my friend. And it was just weird. And he literally said to me that he was at the Flint's Hustler Club in the fucking VIP room with my buddy. So I go over, I'm like, dude, this, and I couldn't even get him to go over because he's looking at me like, nice try. Like, because I'm saying to him, like, this old guy said you were hanging out with him. Like, he thinks I'm implying like fucking, like shit that wasn't true.
Right.
Anyway, let me start off by saying something. The way that this started was a younger, big, like guy comes up to me and asked for my friend, asked if he was there. And I said, yes. And then he went over to the front and he like gave an okay, like, come on down. He's here, to somebody else. So that's when the old man sits at the bar. So Joe, my buddy Joe goes down there. I mean, it doesn't matter. I say his name. And he goes down and he starts talking to the guy, and then he comes back over and he goes, oh yeah. So now Joe remembers. He's like, well, Joe, he doesn't remember, but apparently he was all fucked up at Larry Flint's Hustler Club and was in the fucking champagne room hanging out with this guy. Right. So like like them two were in a room, I guess, with girls. So then Joe tells me the guy is supposedly somebody special. His name's Henry Hill, right?
Okay.
So I remember that Joe went to fucking Larry Flint's Hustler Club, and he came back that night with a fucking Goodfellas poster signed by somebody. Now, here's what's really going to sound cheesy to you is, you know who Henry Hill is. I didn't know who the fuck Henry Hill was, okay?
Okay.
So I go back in the fucking thing and I YouTube fucking Henry Hill to see what he looks like right now.
Yeah.
Sure enough, it was fucking him. I'm looking at all these videos of him selling like Goodfellas paintings that he made, you know, whatever. The guy that came in first and asked if Joe was there was his fucking security guard. Like he has his own fucking security or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, not too much comes out of this, but he checked this out. So my buddy Joe is from Ireland, okay? So now I start to realize who fucking Henry Hill is. So I'm going down and I'm like, hey, what's up? Like, I can't explain it, but I'm doing that like hello, where I'm kind of saying like, hey, what's up, man? I know you are, but I'm also not going to bother you. Like it works with every other famous person I met. Dude, this guy looked at me like, get the fuck out of my face, right?
Yeah.
But then Joe would go down there and he was fucking enamored with my friend. Like he was like, and he started talking about his mom. Like this dude's looking at me like, get away from me. And then he's looking at my buddy and he's like, you know, and then I realized something. What was Henry Hill's thing? Why couldn't he be a fucking mafia guy?
Right.
Because he was half Irish. So he was enamored with my buddy Joe, and he just kept talking about his mom and how they were from the same town and all his shit. But anyway, that's an interesting story. Maybe it's kind of a, you know, nothing a nothing burger at the end. But I mean, fucking Henry Hill was at my bar, you know, looking for Joe.
And for anybody that doesn't know who Henry Hill is, yeah, he was a mobster, and the movie Goodfellas was based off of
based on him. Yeah.
His character was played by Ray Liotta.
Yeah, and dude, fucking scary to think like that dude. Not scary, but you know, like that dude was right there. But you know, I guess the way I got into that was just talking about like weird shit, and you never know who you're talking to, man. Like you really don't. And sometimes I take that into consideration. Like a lot of bartenders like to be tough guys. You know what I mean? Yeah. But it's like you don't know who the fuck you're talking to. You know what I mean? Like you never do. Yeah. You know. And that works both ways for people that think they can treat people in the service. I had a buddy who, you know, used to fucking play football and shit, and he wasn't really a server, but people would be like fucking screaming at him and shit. And I'd be looking at him in the back, and he used to say like, they don't want to wake the fucking sleeping giant, but they'd be talking to him like, hey buddy, where's my fucking shit? You know, and right. I'm saying to myself, like, you don't know if that dude's on work release. You know what I mean?
Right.
You don't know. You don't know. I mean, he could be making fucking viral ghost videos on crack, but I mean, like, you never know who you're talking to. And it's just so funny how there's different kinds of people that come in, and some people think that what you do is awesome. Some people don't really care. And other people, there are people out there that think like you're a fucking servant. Hey, oh, yeah, get my shit. And luckily I've been always, you know, kind of been welcomed in the environment where like, I can put you in your fucking place when you treat me like shit. You know what I mean? Like right. Some places it's unfortunate, but some corporate places and stuff, they don't care. It's all about the customer. They don't care how bad that guy's an asshole. You know what I mean? They don't want that bad Yelp review.
So what's the best way? You go to a bar, you get there with your buddies, whoever, you know, I know me personally from years at the bar, if you go to like a nice place, yeah. You know what I mean? You maybe slip the bartender $20 right off the bat in hopes that he remembers who you are.
Well, here's a simple thing that I think to do, right? And the way I describe this is like, what I say to people is like, it only cost an extra $1 for you to be like the cool guy, right? And the reason why I say this is, if you go up to the bar and your drinks are $16.50, right?
Right.
And you give a guy a 20, give the bartender a 20.
Right.
And let's just say you're going to tip him $2, which is not a bad tip.
Right.
You know, I'm not going to sit here and say $2 on $16.50 is a bad tip. Right.
Right.
But how much is that $1.50 worth to you? Right. So where I'll say this is, if you give me $20 and then I go over to the computer and I give you back $3.50, and then you pick it up, look at it fucking 4 times and then give me $2. I don't hate you. You did nothing wrong. You gave me a good tip. Thanks. But think about how much longer a dude who gives you a 20 and goes, keep it, bro. Right. You know what I mean? And it's like that $1.50 made me go, dang, like there's so many little steps. I'm not saying you got to think that much into it. I'm just saying, don't think that much into it when you're giving a tip. You know what I mean? I ain't saying you got to sit down and say, I'm going to give this guy another $1.50. What I'm trying to say is, the less thought it looks like you put into what you're doing, and sometimes evaluate how much that other, like if you're going to sit there and get your calculator out to give the guy 18% when 20% is keep the change, just fucking keep the change. You know what I mean? But I guess when you're sitting down, see, I guess if you're talking about to be remembered, unfortunately, like I said, there's some bars and they're the places where the bartenders think that they're important. Okay. Right. I've worked in every kind of bar. It should never be about the bartender. It should always be about the customer. Right. Okay. Until the bartender is needed. In other words, the bartender is the cool guy what makes a bartender cool to me is when he sizes up a room and understands where he's needed. Like, in other words, them girls are being approached by this asshole, you know? So you don't go up to every guy who's trying to talk to a girl, whatever, but sometimes you can evaluate the situation properly and step in, whatever. And so, like, if you're in a place where the bartender thinks they're the shit, I mean, honestly, as a bartender, I've never even found a way to get to them people. I just don't think they're good bartenders. So I don't go to them bars. You know what I mean? Right. But if you go to a regular bar, a sit-down bar, honestly, dude, just fucking don't be an idiot. Don't fucking hit on even if she's a hot bartender and you might actually be able to fucking get her, you know, if you want to try and approach her, I'll tell you, nobody ever gets them by saying, hey, baby, hey, oh man, you look good or whatever. Just be nice, be cool, be fucking polite, and fucking tip accordingly. And if you have a good bartender, especially if he's in an environment, like if you see that the bartender's like overwhelmed, and every time he comes to you, you say things like, hey man, don't worry about it. I see you're busy, but whenever you're ready, like that shit goes a long way, because sometimes you're the only guy doing that. What'll happen is then you become my outlet. Because if I have a busy ass bar and everybody's like, hey, I got nowhere to go for a break, you know? Right. So where am I going to go when I have a second to do a shot? I want to go over to that guy who's been real nice and say, hey man, here you go. And then look at him and be like, Jesus fucking Christ, man, these people have no idea. Like, I guess kind of if you want to get through to a bartender, let them understand that you're patient and that you understand what they're doing. Yeah. And be nice. Now that does have a line too. Like if the dude forgets you every fucking time, that's him. You know, nothing you can do. If the dude's an asshole, the bartender kind of slow, he forgot you. Eventually you do have to say, hey, dickhead, it's like for instance, if you go to those bars where the bartender thinks he's the fucking man, well, they're the places where you got to get in there and be like, yo, dickhead, I've fucking been here for 20 minutes. Yeah. You really do have to say that, you know?
Yeah, no, I can relate to that a little bit because outside of just the bartending at the retirement home, occasionally with catering companies, I'll bartend. So I've done some weddings, I've done just some random shit, and I did one. It was a viewing. It was like a party they had for like a there was like, I forget exactly what it was called. Like there
I
was
know what you, both viewings are. Yeah, like
it was there was like it was a celebration of life.
Yeah.
Like the person died, and it was like a week later they had this gathering at the house where they showed video clips of, you know, the person that passed and all that stuff. So they had a caterer, they had a bartender and all, and Brent Selleck was there. I don't know if you know who that is.
Yeah, he's the tight end, right?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he used to be Eagles tight end.
Everybody wants to bang him. Big, handsome white man.
Yeah. So I was like, hey, what's going on, Brent? Like, you know, good job this season, whatever, you know. And he's like, cool, thanks, man, whatever. But I was at one point towards the end of the night, I was getting slammed. He came up and he starts kind of like making his own drink because I got a table with shit just spread out all over the place. Yeah. And I said, Brent, you know, dude, I get that for you. He goes, nah, dude, you're busy. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, all right, cool, thanks. I mean, you know, but
put it this way. On one angle, he was Brent. See, the thing that does suck is like there are the sad part is, and I'll even say it too. Like, for instance, I don't like people touching my fucking shit behind the bar, period. I don't care how nice you are.
Well, yes, there was that aspect of it. Like,
this is what I'm trying to say by it is, sadly, I will say that shows that a little bit of who you are carries in too, you know? Like, in other words, unfortunately, as much as I like to think I'm the fucking, you know, I can do my, you know, I do my shit and whatever. I'm sure I've said things to fucking Joe Schmo that I wouldn't say to Brent Selleck, you know? But there are guys but the thing I will say about the Brent Selleck thing is, sometimes I've gone over to people where they're like getting their own straw, or I've even had people pull the fucking soda gun and make a drink. And that usually infuriates me. But again, where it goes back to you just being polite.
Yeah.
It's like when I look at that guy and I go, hey man, and this is what I mean, the difference between like a dickhead bartender, you know what I mean? A dickhead bartender will like, can't wait for that to happen. So he can use his fucking power or whatever. Whereas I might go over with that intention of being like, yo, what the fuck you doing? You know what I mean? And I've said that to people who looked at me, and the fact that I was as mad as I was didn't register to them. And they said something like, no, dude, you're really busy. So I just wanted to get it for you, you know? And they like, thank God they didn't really register how mad I was. But also I saw that they didn't fully understand how much you're not supposed to touch that fucking soda gun. And they were polite. So it just goes into like, the way you carry yourself, like, dude, just be a fucking nice person. Be someone. You got to remember, the bartender is hanging out too in his own way. Be someone I want to be around, and then I will come to you more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Like, you know, I'm sure you've dealt with massive assholes throughout the years.
Oh.
And dude, I guess it was last summer. I was bartending a gig. They hired a cater company, this big, fancy, trendy apartment complex. So they had a big pool party for all the residents. And, you know, we got our table set up, and there was like these little cabanas next to where we were at. So they could kind of walk behind us without us kind of, like, if we weren't really paying attention, we were really busy, like, kind of sneak behind us and maybe grab something.
Yeah.
And because it's for, like, they don't have to pay. You know what I'm saying? All the drinks are free. It's provided. So they probably feel entitled, like, this is for us, you know. So this massive juice head, just dude walking around like, you know, he's fucking Vin Diesel. And I've been, you know, he was cool pretty much all night. But as I continue to make him drinks,
yeah,
he starts to, you know, that doucheness comes out more and more.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say too. Going back to earlier is, it's like you don't see that coming, and you've played with that guy a certain way, and now all of a sudden you're like locked into this connection, and you're like, you're a douchebag. I got to turn this back into get away from me douchebag mode. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And it's like you created that monster. You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know, he comes up like it's kind of towards the end of the thing. We're kind of starting to run out of, you know, drinks, and he's like, bro, how much would it be if I wanted to buy one of those bottles of vodka from you? I said, dude, I can't sell you that. He goes, dude, I'm not in a position to drive. I'll give you $50. Just give me the bottle. I said, listen, boss, I'd love to help you out, man. I can't do that. So he's like, he just, gives you that dumbass stare.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then he's like, all right. So I'm like, okay. 5 minutes later, the dude is kind of stumbling behind us and grabbing a bunch of different shit. So I was like, hold on. I told the chick, hold on. I was like, yo, motherfucker,
Yeah.
the fuck you doing? And he goes, the fuck you gonna do about it? And now his other buddy, who was kind of like bullshitting with me earlier in the night, he goes, whoa, what's the problem? I said, the problem is you just took a bunch of fucking beers and this fucking dude grabbed the bottle of vodka. And he's like, it's for fucking us anyway, dude. Stop being a fucking douchebag. Meanwhile, he's like almost like fucking, he's like the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like he's like one of those guys where he can't stand up all the way straight. And I'm like, dude, I don't give a fuck. I fucking grabbed the fucking bottle. The other dude's like, oh, dude, I'm sorry. Meanwhile, if this dude was fucking straight, he could have fucking snapped me like a turkey leg. You know what I mean?
But dude, that's the other thing too, is I don't know if your thing turned out like this, but you reminded me of another strategy I use too, where what I'll do, I don't have fucking security at my bar, and it gets busy. When there's certain people I'll latch on to. And what happens is when you're in a situation that you can't, no one ever knows. You got to let everybody not understand your level of fucking control. Like
authority.
They don't know, thank you. And so one thing you always got to do is you treat certain people, you don't treat them any differently. But what I mean is if you can get people on your fucking side, then you can win that asshole battle.
Right.
So when you're in the bar where nobody fucking knows anybody, like nobody knows the bartender because the bartender's a fucking Mr. Hotshot. What happens is like when when that one dude's an asshole, his 6 friends are just going to be on his side,
Right.
No, you know how many times I've had situations that I couldn't handle myself, but the way I handled them was like some guy be like, what's up? And I'm like, dude, listen, you're fucking boy. But meanwhile, I have a relationship with this other guy who's cool.
Right.
And I'll fucking like kind of put these people, it's like chess, it's like,
right.
All right. And then next thing you know, but the thing is they don't know that I can't take care of this if it goes one more level higher,
Yes.
And so, you handle it. And with this, there's 2 stories you're making me think of. Dude, I'm sitting here looking at the clock going, I don't know if I want to keep telling all these stories, but there's some good ones. And here goes one of my best ones when you're talking about like police and people and also them trying to like grab shit themselves. So I do a lot of Johns Hopkins and Loyola University sorority parties, right?
Yeah.
Because we're one of the few bars in the harbor where we'll sell out. Like nobody will normally take that, but they'll come in and say, hey, can we do like a $10,000 buyout? And they're like too much trouble because it's like, you're going to have to police the kids all night. You know what I mean? And I'm also not 23 anymore. So like, they just treat me like an old dude, like the shit that I've had said to me at those things.
Oh
like,
yeah.
Even if they're like nice, like I've had people be like, hey, for an old guy, you're pretty cool, man. I'm like, fuck you, man.
Right.
But anyway, there was this fucking one particular fucking night that goes down in history for me as probably 2 of the, I'll let you be the judge if it's 2, but definitely one of the coolest fucking things I've ever done. And so a lot of times you got to fucking keep an eye on these kids and just see. But again, you also see, here's the thing. I know they're going to get away with shit. Every college fucking kid's going to sneak his own drink in. They're going to have underage kids drinking, you know what I mean? Whatever.
Right.
But if they think that they fucking own the situation, you're dead. You know what I mean?
Right.
But also, if you let them know how much you don't own the situation, you're also dead, Right. So you take your fight to places where, like in other words, you're never going to stop them from drinking. Just let them know that, like, in other words, if there's some 18-year-old dickhead that's coming up to the bar being like, hey, yo, you got to remember, this kid's never been to a bar. So if you just accept that all underage kids are drinking at your bar, you're dead because you're going to have a bar full of 18-year-olds like, hey, yo, over here. So, you got to fucking, you check the dude. Give me your fucking ID, asshole. And then again, you got his friends who were like, hey, sorry. And then what happens is, you'll have a dude who actually pays and actually tips, and you'll have like, I don't know, he's now getting drinks for other people. But the thing is, I'd rather have you coming up to me thinking you got one over on me, thinking I don't know you're giving it to somebody, than have just a bunch of fucking, like, just leaving my bar for any, like, you know, whatever. I'm like, I might as well serve everybody because who cares, you know?
Right.
But hey, I'd rather have it funneled through the guy who thinks he's now got to police his friends a little bit and he tips. Fuck it. I'll take it that way.
Right, right.
So in this particular situation, the one part of the story, I'm debating in my head whether I should tell it, because every time I say it, some people think it's weird, but I thought it was amazing. So I fucking was policing people for drinking and shit. And before this happened, there was some fucking frat kid decided to pull his dick out. Like, literally his dick was completely out. And he's pissing off of the fucking balcony, like onto the harbor where fucking, it's like 11 o'clock at night. There's fucking families walking around.
Right.
So I go outside, and you got to remember, I don't give a fuck how tough I think I am. These are fucking fraternity kids, you know, and there's like 12 of them in a, you know, together. And I got to go out and fucking, you know, pretty much act tough. So I go out and I'm like, yo, man, you're fucking, like, well, what happened was I went to go over to him and he's standing there with his dick out. And all of a sudden, nobody like stopped him. And like 6 of his fucking big friends got in front of me and they were like, hey, he's fine. He's fine. And I'm like, he ain't fine. But at the same time, not only can I not get to him, but I also don't know how much I want to get to him because he's taking a piss.
Right.
And it was a nice long, like, the dude didn't even go like, oh, let me put it away. There's fucking guys out here. And again, this goes to like, they're doing a million things that I can't stop, but I have to stop some of them so I look like I am in control, or else they'll all just start pissing off the balcony.
Right.
So, dude, I went over to the dude and I was like, dude, and I looked at his fucking boys. I was like, get the fuck out of my face. Your buddy's pissing off the fucking balcony. And I went up to the dude and I'm standing there now. They parted. It's just me and the guy. And he's standing there and he's pissing off the balcony. And I said, dude, like, I didn't know what, like, I'm like thinking, like, what do I do? You know?
Right.
And I'm like, put your fucking dick in your pants. And the dude turns around and I went, don't you fucking, and I didn't know what to do, like, in the split second. Cause I'm like, this guy's going to turn around.
Right.
Dude, I looked down and there was like 2 full fucking like plastic cups with like drinks in them, like 16-ounce cups.
Right.
And the dude was turning around and I just grabbed the cup and poured it on, like, I mean, I'm not trying to be weird, but like his dick was out. I poured it on his dick and on his pants and grabbed the other one and poured it on his dick and his pants and looked at him and I said, you didn't want to piss your pants and now you did. Right? Like, I didn't know what else to do, right?
Right.
Here's where it gets better. So now I kind of have control of the people a little bit. Like, they're like, what the fuck just happened? Like, there were, you know, it was funny too, I guess. But also, what could I do? You know?
Right.
They also have a $10,000 buyout. You know what I mean? Like, so I come back in but I've also been policing. I'm watching the dance floor. Like, I'll see a guy. I mean, dude, I actually love them parties. Like, you catch people fucking in the kitchen and shit, and and you're like an old man. So really, you're like standing there and you're like, get out of here. But you're like, they're fucking, you know?
Yeah.
And so some dude, I seen him like go to the dance floor and like, because they're kids, so they kind of show off. Like, he goes up and he's like pulling beers out of his pocket, but he's also doing it where like everybody's looking like, oh, this guy snuck beer in, you know, whatever.
Right.
Because they don't want to pay. It's a $10,000 buyout, but if they want anything other than like a shitty rail drink, they got to pay. Or some of them sneak in, you know, so you got to play that game. Like, who's got a bracelet, who doesn't?
Right.
So I fucking took a 6-pack of Milwaukee's Best off of this dude, right? And I went behind the bar and put it on the fucking ice. And dude's like, please, please. His friends are like, please, please. And I got cocky with him. I'm like, dude, you're lucky you're fucking in here. And his friends who saw me do the shit outside, like, looked at the dude like, yo, don't fuck with him. Don't fuck with him, you know? So
right.
So I'm behind the bar. And then his fucking 4 friends sit there. And I hate to say this, but it was probably because of my ponytail. The guy was like, yo, man. But they were also, then see what happens is they also try and like, they think you're watching these young kids that don't know how to be in a bar. So they're looking at me like, let's kiss his ass and then we'll be his friend. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I got these 4 guys sitting there and they're like, yo, man, that shit you did outside. And the guy was really like, that was some Steven Seagal badass shit, dude.
Steven Seagal. How do they even know who Steven Seagal is?
Hey, he's still popular, man.
Yeah.
So anyway, what was great though was the guy's sitting there and he goes, so they start saying to me like they wanted their beer back. So he's like, what happened was I started talking and being nice to them. And then what happens with me is if you're nice, you win me over. Like, I don't care. Like, I threw them some shots or something like, hey, here's a fucking fruity shot and whatever. And they're like, and then but then I see a look in the kid's face like, all right, we got this guy, you know? So he's like, dude, you can't give us our beer back? And I'm like, dude, no, I can't give you your fucking beer back. And he goes, it's just that all the beer in here is so expensive. So our most expensive beer is like $5.75, right?
Right.
So he's like, I was like, it's not that expensive. And the guy's like, everything's $5.75. He's like, you don't have anything in here under $5.75? And I looked down at their 6-pack of Milwaukee's Best. And I went, I got Milwaukee's Best for $4.75 a piece. So, dude, they were like, really? But you got to remember, they have to buy a drink one way or the next. And our cheapest beer is like Miller Lite for $5.75.
Right.
They bought the fucking cans back from me at $4.75 a fucking piece just because it was $1 cheaper than whatever else they could have bought. And I always thought that's a fucking flipper, dude. That's a flipper.
Yeah.
To sell someone their own beer back. Was that not a fun story? I thought it was a fun story.
No, it was. I thought that you were going when you were telling me the guy was turning around pissing. I thought you were going to catch his piss in the cup.
Well, again, dude, here's the thing. Every time I tell that story, I'm like, yeah. Then I poured beer on his. Then I poured fucking, a drink on his dick. People are like, that's great, man. Do you tell everyone about that story?
Well, I thought.
Well, what do you do? Like, but here's the thing. You got to think about it. Like, I thought in that moment, there's a chance I get peed on a little bit, which is going to be his story.
Right.
Like, you got thrown out of that place and you peed on the bartender. I don't want to be that bartender.
Exactly.
So, I'm not going to punch him in his face and I could still get peed on. So I was like, I'll just fucking ruin his pants. That was my thought. Like, like now he's walking around and everybody's like, yo, how'd you get soaked? And he's like, I peed, bartender poured shit on me. I'd rather have it be that story than a peed on the bartender.
But see, in my head, although that is funny, like in my head, I pictured you catching his piss in the cup and just standing there like it was like a duel.
Dude.
Like it was like a Mexican standoff. You're like,
dude.
I'm just like, that would be weird.
Dude, but here was the weird part. We stood and looked at each other. Like he was pissing off the balcony, and what happened was this dude was taking a nice long piss. And his friends gathered over, like I can't, like at first he was by himself, like, he was literally like hands out, like shaking his body. Yeah. So I came up beside him and my brain was like, what do I do? But before I could figure out, like his whole gang, like got in front of him, like nothing to see here type of shit, like I was like, nothing to see here. Your friend's taking a piss. And then I forget what I said, but I basically implied like some type of authority. Like, I don't know if it was like physical, but I'm pretty sure I said like, I'm going to fucking beat somebody the fuck up or something, Right. And then they just opened, like, so I'm standing there thinking I'm going to now have to deal with these other people and he'll be long finished his pee. No, they just like dispersed. And then it was me looking at this guy like a Mexican standoff. And I went, hey, and the dude was like, hey, like he was literally like, leave me alone. I'm peeing. I'm just taking a pee. And I'm like, well, the only thing I could think is like to punch him. You know what I mean? And I'm like, what do I do? And then I had all this time and he just starts like, hey, and he's got his hands in the air as he's turning. So I'm like, this guy's just going to pee on me. But anyway, the fucking thing that I thought was great was, what do you do? I don't know. Give me another fucking scenario where you don't punch him in his face. You know what I mean? But the other thing I was thinking is like, I also remember like thinking in my head, like, I don't know how other people would feel in that situation, but I've seen it all. You know what I mean? So,
right.
But like, I mean, literally I was at the point where I should have just grabbed his dick and just squeezed it or something. Now you're not pissing. I don't know if that's a story I wanted to live with though, Hey man, that was some real Steven Seagal shit.
Yeah.
Rip his dick off. have to explain that shit. That'll be on fucking TMZ.
That's some fucking Mortal Kombat
Yeah.
shit. Finish it.
Just grab his dick and rip it off. World star.
Yeah, yeah, really. Well, on the fucking World Star note,
So that's how you get the bar. That's how you get on the bartender's good side.
Yeah. And to get on your trash man's fucking good side, lighten up your bags. You know, don't buy those dollar store cheap bags. Get a nice bag. Don't make them too heavy. Throw it in a can.
Yeah.
And just say, you know, just go out there every day and say, hey, oh, thanks, guys.
Next time you're tying that fucking bag up, just say to yourself, what would fucking layman's terms do?
Right.
What do they do? These guys, you know, we're a good place to look for advice, worldly advice. You know, we don't read the books, but we take our trash out and we think of others when we do our daily activities.
And we make good drinks and we're nice. We service with a smile.
But what do you want to call this one, Tom? Is it that time?
I think so, buddy.
Yeah, that's fine with me. So anyway, it was good talking to you. I'm glad I got to teach you about Henry Hill and how much I like to fucking grab people's dicks and heroin overdoses and
save people's lives, grab dicks,
saving lives, grabbing dicks. I'm every angle of the spectrum when I bartend. So come down and see me.
Meanwhile, I'm over here like I save possums out of
Tom,
trash trucks.
Hey, I'm glad you ain't grabbing any dicks where you're bartending. I would have grabbed fucking what's his name? Selig's dick.
I did take we did take a picture together. I
seen it.
Yeah, I was like really like fanboy, and I'm like I was like trying to keep it cool, but I'm like I'm a huge Eagles fan. And
I seen all comments under that picture where people are like, "Hey, who's that fucking famous guy with that big giant man? Who's that good-looking smaller guy next to that big giant guy?"
Yeah, like his face. He was like fucking not happy to be there in that picture. He was probably like, all right, dude, whatever. Like, but
But hey, you know, fuck it. I'll save it for another time. But yeah, Tom, was definitely talking to you. Definitely good talking to you.
Yes.
And remember, America, read the books.
Yes.
And, you know, maybe don't piss over the fucking balcony in the next bar you're in. And maybe you'll have learned something here. Next time you're sitting there going, I got to take a piss. And I don't feel like walking to the bathroom. And I'm at this cool bar and I'm on a balcony and I got all my friends here and I don't want to miss this conversation. Maybe I should just piss over that balcony. Put it away from me. Okay? Put it away. All right, Tom. I'm gonna end the recording and then maybe hang on for a second.